Hello friends and welcome to the Patron show for May 2018. How you doing? Having a good time? I'm having a great time. The sun is out. Look at all those leaves, Esteban. Look at them. Check him out. Check him out. He's nodding. He likes them. He's not really green. They're green. He's like, they're green. It's great. Having a great time here. It's been fucking thunderstorm. Nobody told me about this part. They were like, the winters are really long. The summers are really muggy. No one mentioned that during the sun part, that you have these lightning storms, which are like, it's like being at a fucking disco. It's just like strobe. It's not even like, in Ireland we get lightning and it would be like a lightning flash every 40 seconds maybe. Here it's like boom, 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 the entire sky over and over again. Yeah, I went to a Bowie Bay Sox game a couple of days ago. It's like the local, like, what do you call it, AA league, like underneath the bigs league baseball game. And we got 2 innings in and the lightning storm started. We had to come home. And on the way home, the drive, it was like totally black and the sky was just like strobing. I've never seen it like it. Everyone else probably thought it was like, my wife was like, oh, it's like super normal. And I was like, it's fucking the end of the world. So we came home and watched Twister. It was a good night. It was good fun.
Finger of God.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all multiple fingers of God swirling around. So yeah, we're having a great time here in Maryland. The cold has been replaced by all the animals in the world. Salamanders and spiders and millipedes now live in my house. But I guess that's the way of it. And there's lots going on here at No Clip, like loads, and we can't tell you about fuck all of any of it. This has been the weirdest couple of months for us because it's looked like we've been super lazy and there's been all this stuff going on. And by the time the next Patron show is out, you will know everything. But we're right at the tail end of what's been months of work on some really cool stuff that we literally cannot tell you anything about. It's been really strange. It's been fun doing it as a project. It's been kind of terrifying as a Patreon creator because we haven't put out updates that often, and updates is basically what fuels everything. So I can see, like, you know, even followers on the No Clip Twitter account are kind of like plateauing, and our patronage has been slumping down ever so slowly for the past probably 2 months, because even the Warframe doc wasn't like the biggest thing in the world, but it's all been by design. It's effectively the sort of like, I feel like we're the squirrels before winter, just like getting as much stuff as possible, and it's going to be like a big boom when we show you what we've been filming and what we've been collecting and where we've been flying and all that sort of cool stuff. So yeah, I can't tell you about that. We have a big thing coming. You'll know about it soon. You'll be watching it soon, actually, and we can't wait to save it with you. In the meantime, though, we've got some other things going on. We had an episode of Bonus Level that was going to go this month. I ended up focusing on the No Clip podcast instead because I wanted to get that out. So we'll have a Bonus Level post E3, but so I know people have been asking about that. So there's definitely one coming, and they're going to be more frequent once we get this big project sort of in the rearview mirror. But the No Clip podcast is something I'm super excited about. Perhaps you've been following the updates already on our Patreon feed. There's been a pilot version of the first episode has gone up, and I got some amazing feedback from everyone. So thank you so much for that. But in case you don't know, the podcast is essentially a editorial style, sort of NPR radio play almost style podcast, in the sort of template of podcasts I love, like Reply All, or if you watched or listened to A Life Well Wasted back in the day, Robert Ashley's incredible video game mini-series of podcast. I think it was only 6 in total. It's kind of like that, where it's me narrating and then interviews interspliced with like sound effects and game audio and stuff going on in the background too. So the first one's done and mastered. I got a bunch of feedback on the first one, some factual stuff that I'd sort of gotten wrong. I accidentally said weekly as well on the start of one. Esteban caught that one, and so did a bunch of other people. That had to be edited out. And then also somebody else told me that the intro to the piece kind of felt like an episode 0 thing, so I actually broke that out. That's going to be the start of the feed that'll go up on iTunes, and then I've done a new intro for the first episode. But the whole thing about the podcast is, if you're watching this, you're in the $5 tier, you're going to be getting it early. Patreon creates custom RSS feeds for all of you, which I'll be turning on once the first episode goes live for patrons, which it might have done before this goes live, actually, so just check your email. You'll get a custom RSS feed in your, I'll write a little thing about how to do it, on your Patreon account. You can plug that into whatever you want, your iTunes, your Google Play, your whatever you want to listen to. And whenever we update the podcast for patrons, which will be early before it goes live, a day or two before everyone else gets it, you'll get it early. I also might use that Patreon feed to sprinkle in some like exclusive little bits and bobs every now and again, but I don't want to flood it either, so we'll keep it pretty steady. But yeah, we did one with Sergey Galankin, who is the person who created Steam Spy, and it's a pretty interesting story, I think, about his sort of early life, how he ended up working where he works now, and the sort of interesting story behind Steam Spy as well. We also talked to Gary Carr and Mark Webley, who are the creative leads behind Theme Hospital. They're based in the UK. I had an interview with them last week, and we're going to be turning that into a podcast about the history of Theme Hospital and their new game, 2 Point Hospital, and the sort of the bizarre game design decisions that went behind the original game and what they're doing with the new one. And I think the new one I thought was like riffing really hard on Theme Hospital, but some of the stuff they're doing with like AI and things is particularly weirdly interesting, kind of in the way that City Skylines did really weird things with player behavior, or like sim behavior or whatever. So I'm really interested to share that. We've got a bunch of other ones lined up. I'm going to go get lunch with Jake Solomon in Baltimore one of these days, and we're just going to record the whole thing while I'm out with my recorder. So he's up for doing that. I might actually have to wait until after E3 to do that one. And then I've got another one lined up, which is with a pretty big person in the games media landscape, which people have been asking me to do something on for a while. So I can't confirm exactly what that is yet, but it's these types of stories. It's interesting little like pockets from within games. And then when we go to big studios, we're getting opened up to even bigger developers, and we're going to have some really big names on there as well. I've also got some like celebrity gamer people who I kind of know who are going to be hitting up for interviews as well, because it's fun. I'm able to record this stuff over the internet with pretty good equipment and make it sound really good. So it's worked out really well. I'm really happy with it. If you didn't listen to any of the No Clip podcasts that I put up already, the preview, here is a little demo of what you have in store. Enjoy.
Ukraine has always been ahead of the curve when it came to developing algorithms. For instance, the first neural networks used to detect fake dollar bills were prototyped in Ukraine. Sergey continued his education and worked a bunch of jobs. He did page layouts at a local newspaper. He spent some time at a game studio focusing on edutainment. Eventually, he'd find himself moving to Kiev and taking up a job at a games distributor responsible for selling games for some of the biggest publishers in the world. What were some of the popular games in the Ukraine then around that time? What were any standout in particular?
Well, I mean, it's your usual, except for Stalker. We were not distributing Stalker. Stalker was a different company, but you've heard about Stalker, right? That was the most popular game in Ukraine, and I guess it still is a lot of people, are playing it. From our products, I would say World of Warcraft was the most popular game ever. I mean, it was selling like hotcakes, and that was just literally crazy. We couldn't get enough of it, into stores. That was just unbelievable.
Was there any games that were very popular in the West that just were not popular at all in Ukraine?
A lot of like intellectual properties that are not familiar to Ukrainians were not selling well. Like it was a 50 cents video game that nobody knew about 50 cents back then in Ukraine, so it didn't really sell well. Elsa was an awful game, to be honest.
Not many copies of Blood on the Sand sold in Kiev.
Yeah.
If you were watching the wide shot that Esteban had earlier, you may have noticed that I had Empires of Eve on the table here. This is the book about EVE Online, which was written by Andrew Groan, who I believe is based in Seattle, I want to say. And I've been reading it myself, and it's absolutely incredible. It's about the history of EVE Online and the sort of the... look at the bookmark we have. It's the Christmas card we made, me and Jeremy, and Hero Mischief. It's about the sort of wars that happen in the first 6 years of EVE, and I really enjoy it. I just wanted to make a point. We're not doing a documentary on EVE. This is just here by happenstance. I've just been reading this book, but also Andrew just finished his Kickstarter for the second version of this, for version 2 or volume 2 rather, which I have chipped on as well. And maybe we'll get Andrew on the podcast. Actually, I've been talking to him about doing maybe something along those lines. which would be pretty cool. So I guess I'm contradicting myself now. I guess we are doing something on EVE Online. But the big project we're doing, it's not EVE Online, just in case you were wondering. Anyway, Q&A time. Brandon King Guy comes in with the first question. He says, hey Danny, I hope you're doing well, and I'm happy to hear the podcast is hitting the ground running. With E3 less than a month away and plans being put into place making this another busy year, I was curious if you have anything in particular you're excited to hear about or to see at the show, if you have time. A specific game, conference, or just getting to spend a week with friends, colleagues, and peers. Either way, have a wonderful day. Thanks so much, Brandon. This is the weirdest E3 for me by a mile, because after 18 months of going to studios and talking to them about the games they made, most of which those studios are now working on games that are new, I kind of feel like I know loads that's going to be talked about at E3 this year, or like I have an idea. Like some places we went, we like saw stuff, or some other places we went, it's like, oh, you can like totally like intuit what they're working on. But I also don't, I feel like I can't possibly vocalize those things because I feel like they're probably right. I feel pretty confident about them. So there's a couple of games, maybe we'll record like a timepiece thing or something where I say these are the things I think, or something like that, or maybe not, the way Giant Bomb does. Probably not, actually, that's probably a bad idea. So there's a couple of, I'm very interested in like some things that I think might turn up that I hope, or I'd be interested in. The one that's totally thrown me for a loop though is Rage 2, because that, like, I did not see that fucking coming out of anywhere. It looks like, as the point of this recording, it's the gameplay trailer's out today, but I don't think it's been released yet.
No, it is.
Oh, you have seen it?
Right before this.
Oh, came out right before this? Okay, I'm gonna watch it right now. Okay, I did not know. I watched the Tone trailer or whatever that had an Andrew WK video song, which I put in the first video I ever edited.
Oh, really?
Ready to Die. I did a Counter-Strike a video called the AFK Noob, where myself, my friend Dennis and Dale and James, Dennis and James from A Tournament of Lies, the podcast we used to do. We recorded like a Counter-Strike like fake video, like Counter-Strike in real life kind of thing, and gave it to PC Gamer and won an Alienware PC out of it. So it's pretty cool. But we put Ready to Die Fantasy WK in that. Anyway, all right, okay, I'm gonna check this out. This is a 1 minute 50-second video. Okay, I'm gonna take a punt. It's either one of two things. It's like not a battle royale game, but like an online big world. It's like Just Cause, but like there's multiplayer and you can all do pal around and do stuff like Borderlands but open world, or it's a straight up Avalanche style, like almost like Mad Max, like the Mad Max game they made. I think they made that one, where you're like driving around and doing missions and stuff. But I think the online is like a thing. I think the online's a thing.
Yeah, you should probably watch the video.
Okay, we should watch the video. All right. This is our first no clip react video. You can put the trailer in the bottom corner. Yeah. All right. Oh shit! I have the audio turned off. Okay. Here we go. All right.
When the asteroid hit, billions were gone in the blink of an eye.
Ooh.
Tribes rose up.
That's pretty cool.
Alliances formed.
I'm on board.
Territory was conquered.
Oh, I like the different...
There was no one left alive to tell you no.
Oh, Jesus, he's huge.
Wide open place, if you wanted something bad enough, it was yours for the taking. You see, in a world where there are no rules, insanity rules.
Oh my god, a different Andrew WK song! Holy shit! As an Andrew WK fan, I'm super into this. Good, hit her on it. Ooh, they kept the spinny thing. Open world. Check. They're gonna drop multiplayer right at the end. This is Party Till You Puke. Oh wow, look at all the fucking like Quake style movement stuff. It definitely is multiplayer. There's too much like weird shit going on, but like cars doing crazy things. That's all they're showing? All right.
That's it.
That looks good. I'm super into it. Whoever at id or Avalanche who's into I Get Wet, the first Andrew WK album is super in there. That's great and ready. Yeah, that's rad. Okay, I'm on board. I like how weird this looks. I like the different locales that they're showing and stuff like that. That's cool. That'd be super cool. If fucking Rage, man, Rage 1 was like so good in so many ways. And we did this interview with Tim Willits, and I'm kind of hoping maybe we can get it out as like a no clip archive maybe or something, but people need to know we recorded it ages ago because it's all about Quake Champions and all the old earlier stuff. But I hope he's working on this because Rage 1 was like his like baby. Like I think he like really like was proud of that whole thing. And it was so good. Like the animation was really good. It was a game that was definitely not finished. It was like it totally like crawls to a stop at like 60% through what it feels like the pace of the game. And it was kind of doing open world before open world was a thing. So now when you play it in like a post Far Cry, like post Skyrim even, or Fallout probably is more accurate because it's got guns in it. In a post Fallout 3 world, it feels like kind of a bit lame. Actually, it came out in a post Fallout 3 world, didn't it? It came out after Fallout 3. Totally. So yeah, maybe that's not the best. Definitely in terms of like, because it's more on the action shootery Far Cry scale, or like what first person shooter games were, whereas I guess Fallout 3 is more of a role playing game that they squished into a first person. But yeah, it kind of feels a little bit weird, but it's you should go back and play it now. The graphics in that game are fantastic. Like it looks great, mega textures, the animations. It has some of the best. I saw Total Biscuit say this actually 2 days ago, and I think I'd said it recently when I replayed it, which it has the best death animations, best reacting to getting shot animations maybe I've ever seen in a video game. It's absolutely brilliant. So if it gets a second lease of life, like this is awesome. I'm trying to think of other games that have had like this, where 2 has been where it like kicked off. Like it's because it happens every once in a while.
Street Fighter 2.
Street Fighter 2, good point, right? Street Fighter 1's like a totally different thing. It's like a weird, yeah. Street Fighter 2. I'm trying to think of other ones. It's definitely a thing. Or I like the way, like, or it's the sort of Mad Max, what happened to that, and then the new Mad Max being, I mean, that's a very direct aesthetic connection. But anyway, sorry. Anyway, let's go back to Brandon's question, who asked it about 20 minutes ago. I'm sorry, Brandon. I don't know about the hardware stuff. I don't necessarily think there'll be anything. What I'm mostly looking forward to is this is the video game year, because we're, whatever, 5 years into this generation? 4, anyway. I think 5. I think we're coming up on 5. Into this generation, and it's when people really start to like figure out how the tech works. So I'm looking forward to seeing like some really interesting graphical improvements and new systems, way more online stuff, because we can see now with Battlegrounds, more people in online games is becoming a thing. I'm interested, there won't be any Red Dead stuff, but like games that are open in that way that like have that sort of fidelity. So who knows? I'm interested to see more of Days Gone. There was another game that was on the tip of my tongue a second ago that's just gone now. I can't remember. It was something else. But yeah, I don't know. Just like games. What's coming out for Switch for the rest of the year? Because I don't have a clue. Yeah, and probably Microsoft are the ones that really have to pull it out of the park. Like if when Spencer came in and they started to like hire studios to do exclusive stuff for the Xbox, this is the year where they need to start showing off a bunch of that sort of stuff. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. I can't remember what that game is. If I think of it, I'll say it again. But yeah, that's mostly it. And then also just hanging out with people. Like now, especially I live on the East Coast, it'll be fun to bump into people. The same thing last year, we ended up organizing a bunch of documentaries for the rest of the year. So the Witcher stuff came together at E3. Yeah, well, I've got meetings set up already for most of the time there. I'm going to go on the show floor and record some bits and check it out and see what it's like with all the extra people it seems like are coming, and they've elongated the days as well to sort of offset that. Hopefully see all the Giant Bomb folks at their live show if I get invited. Hit me up, Alex, if you're watching this. Yeah, just hang out and enjoy the show. I'm there for 7 days, I think. 6 days? 6 days. 7 days. Saturday, so should be fun. Next question comes from Arcada. Hey, Danny. Hope it's sunnier now where you are. It is. And lightninger. I remember watching a stream of you playing Goat Simulator many years ago. 2014? Yeah, it might have been 2013. Although such a small and silly game, do you feel like these kind of games will ever be deserving of a documentary? Yeah, we did the Frog Fractions 1 and 2. We did a documentary for each game, which is ridiculous. I would argue that those games are sillier than Goat Simulator. So we've done it in the past, and certainly if you've noticed the pattern with NoClip, it's always been kind of big game, weird game, big game, weird game, Japanese game, miniseries, PlayStation game, weird game. Warframe I consider a kind of weird game. So we kind of go all over the place. I have a feeling after the next thing I'll want to do some like weird little unknown stories probably. So yes, I can see this stuff happening. I think the idea after the next project is to tackle more small, interesting stories. So definitely stuff like that is what I'm looking to do. We're also going to try and get a profile out in the next, but definitely before the end of the year, because we've had one a year so far, which seems like or I guess we had technically Romero came in January, even though I filmed it in December. Yeah, one a year seems decent enough. And there's some big people around here. Sid Meier's just up the road. That'd be a good one, actually. Yeah. He's up in Fairax. He's up in Baltimore. Baltimore, baby. So yeah, we'll see about that. But yeah, definitely smaller games, for sure. It's hard. The worst thing about answering these questions is knowing stuff and not being able to share it. So wink, wink, wink. That was the time I was talking about X. Daniel Rodriguez comes in with a question. Hey Danny, I've been a fan ever since Escape from Mount Stupid days. Your editorial style has always been engaging. Thank you. What is your process for drafting those opinion pieces? How has it changed over the years? Do you have any plans to pick it up again? Well, in case you haven't watched Bonus Level, that's kind of where the op-ed stuff is going now. Back in the GameSpot days, it was difficult because I needed to do one every couple of weeks. I guess Escape from Mount Stupid was different because that was a history of series, so I just picked a game that maybe had a sequel coming out recently that I was interested in. Like Deus Ex was coming out, so we did a Deus Ex one, which was easy because I loved the first two Deus Ex games. The Final Fantasy one was the one that I got Mark Alex Walton to do, and we sort of made that part of the show that I was asking him about the game because I didn't have a clue about that series. But generally, that's the way it was. It was what you'd imagine. It was opening Wikipedia, getting as much information about the games, throwing in a few jokes, visual jokes, editing jokes, written like gags that could work without the visuals, and sort of making sure that there was at least a joke every like 30 seconds or something that would be interesting or make you snigger. So that was the idea behind that. And then the op-ed stuff was a little bit harder because some of it had to be every week or every 2 weeks. Was it by the end? I think the point was every 2 weeks. So it was a balancing act between doing stuff that was timely and then also doing stuff that was a bit more evergreen, that I just had like a locker. I have a Google Doc sheet of like ones that we could pull out whenever. And then stuff would happen that would come in the way, and like 2 days beforehand, you'd be like, fuck, we definitely can't talk about that now because it's going to look weird with everyone talking about this, so I'd have to rewrite them. One that stands out was the Satoru Iwata episode after he passed away. We had something else on that week, and then it was, I think we had like a day or two, and it was like, fuck. So me and Andy ran out to the Moscone Center where he had done his famous GDC talk and did a little bit to camera right there, ran back, and I think I stayed overnight to edit that one just to change it. And then the other one we had done, we basically like put out like a week or two later. So that was the process then. The process now is different. I have to be a lot more self-disciplined now, which is proving difficult when there are so many jobs to do. Like right now, we're in post-production on something, so that involved like a lot of emails and flights and like organizing people and doing all that sort of stuff. And then I'm also producing the podcast, which involves recording interviews and editing the interviews, and then doing the graphics for the podcast, and then figuring out how like sound effects work, and then figuring out audio mastering for podcasts, which I hadn't done in like 10 years maybe since I was in college, like properly. So there's like so many plates to spin all the time that it's really difficult to find time to think about something that I'm interested in. So what's happening with Bonus Level is it's only stuff that I'm really interested in. So if it's something that like is interesting to me, like what was interesting about the first one was the sort of why I felt that I was enjoying PUBG, and why the things it does that are really good that maybe don't stand out. Our refrigerator's just turned on, just in case you can hear that. Okay. but yeah, for now, it's like stuff that like stands out to me and that's interesting. And the thing that's interesting to me at the moment is actually something to do with the project we're working on. So I can't actually do an episode of Bonus Level about it. So that's why I'm saying it's going to be after E3. Although I had another one that kind of could have fit in there as well. But yeah, it's the process then is essentially like getting to a Google Doc sheet and just like trying to get the words out as quickly as possible. What I often find is that when I'm writing it down, I write things down in a way I wouldn't speak. So what I've started to do is record on my phone a little bit, because sometimes I get angry about something, or I'll be like hitting the boxing bag, or I'll be in the car. It happens a lot where I do these things where I talk to myself, or I talk to myself through like a process, or I do fake interviews in my head quite a lot. I'll like interview somebody who like isn't there about something, or debates. I do like fake debates. I'll just be in the car talking to myself. It's really fucking weird. But sometimes I just take the phone out and I record that and then try and transcribe that, or Apple does its own version of transcriptions now, which is pretty handy. And then try and get it down and see if you can formulate generally what I do with the op-ed pieces is you ask a question at the start and you answer a question at the end. It's kind of the basis for a lot of the docs as well, except the questions we don't really have to ask because people kind of know what the questions are when we tackle a game. Like Warframe, it's like, what's the question? Well, it's how did this game survive, right? And then hopefully by the end we've answered it. And the same is definitely true of the podcast, very similar kind of thing. So it's the same with that. It's like you try and point people towards where you're going with the argument. You're like, you tell them why they're here, basically. And then you try and keep their attention non-stop, introduce new ideas, sometimes like totally break. Maybe don't make the same point for 6 minutes, like just make it for 2 minutes or 1 minute and then go somewhere else and tell a different story and then make a point off that. You're basically like, it's the video version of like being a street performer and trying to keep people's attention for as long as possible. And sometimes the thread that you're on just isn't interesting enough and you just got to get out of it. And that's kind of what writing those things is like. It's like I'm trying to put my point across, but I'm also trying to keep you hooked, watching. And I guess the same with the docs and same with the podcast too. Yeah, so that's basically the sort of long and short of it. So it feels weird to be answering questions about it, considering we've only done one episode of Bonus Level. But everything will make sense in a couple of weeks why there's not been much other stuff going on. It's been quite a large undertaking, this thing, and a long undertaking. So looking forward to sharing it pretty soon. That's going to be the Patron show for this week. A little bit of a short one, probably. I don't know. Who knows? I ramble a lot. We've got to film more stuff today. A lot of it is stuff that we can't tell you about again. But like I said, you'll know in not too long. Weeks. Not even a month. In a month, it'll all be behind us. In weeks, you'll know all about it. I'm determined to go to E3 this year and to not be editing, because that was what happened last year. I was still editing the Final Fantasy XIV stuff, which went out a week after E3, I think. Which is I realized last year that was like nightmarish. Like whatever we do this year, I just want it to be in the rear view mirror for E3 so that we can I can just go to E3 and actually enjoy it and not have to edit for 6 hours a day or whatever I was doing last year. It was a bit of a nightmare. So yeah, thank you so much for your patronage as ever. Thank you, especially to all of you folks who are like hanging in there while we pine away on some stuff in the background. The No Clip podcast, if you haven't listened to it, I would love your feedback on our first episode. It should be live for patrons by the time this goes up, I would imagine. And then the Theme Hospital one will be coming down the pipeline in the next few weeks. It'll be out before, like in the next 2 weeks, I imagine. I'm going to jump into editing that right away. So yeah. That's the show for this week. Thank you again. If you have any questions, you want to send me directly or anything, feel free to DM me on Patreon as ever. Hit me up at Daniel Dwyer on Twitter if you have any questions you just want to throw me there. Or if you have any questions, comments, or concerns. My patrons, please stick them in the comments underneath this video. Have a good week. Next time you see me, we'll probably have the longest patron show ever because of the stuff we've been working on. I can't wait to share it with you, and we'll see you then. Adios.